Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And my mind is so exploding from all of the conversations yesterday and this morning. And we are a panel that is speaking about best practice, and I think you heard best practice right before this. You heard about effective practice and best practice. And so I kept thinking while I was listening to all of those wonderful and rich and heartfelt stories as to what my role is as an evaluator, as a researcher, sometimes as a trainer in the out-of-school time field, and trying to think about what I can do and what the field and world of evaluation and research can do to take these stories and how we can hopefully look at and interpret in some ways and package up all of the things that we've been hearing and take it beyond these walls. And I know that our last session today will probably be talking a lot about that. And so I hope that in the conversation we have as part of this panel and at the question time of this panel, we can really have opportunity to focus on the intersection of the presentations we just heard and the presentations of this panel. I was thinking, as I was listening to some of the stories, I love that movie, Jerry Maguire, and where he's saying, help me help you, and that's what I was thinking part of my role is help me to help you, to take the programs that you have and to help them be on the road and expanding and showing the good work that's going on. So that's one of the things I was thinking. And then I was also, as I said, my head was flooding, but when the conversation for wit, and I was thinking of, again, some favorite audiovisual things, the whole Dumbledore's Army and Harry Potter. I was thinking, here's Dumbledore's Army going out, whatever it takes, and being there for their peers and colleagues, et cetera. So I'm happy to be here and to tell you a little bit about the work that we've been doing at the National Institute on Out-of-School Time around looking specifically at summer and at summertime and what we can learn about summer experiences in out-of-school time. The Wellesley Centers for Women and NIOST have been looking at issues related to youth and women and families and care for over 40 years. So the whole topic and field of out-of-school time is, of course, very important and precious in all of our work at Wellesley and at National Institute and Out-of-School Time. I left some beautiful colors in New England, and I know there were folks from Lowell here, and Boston's not too far from Lowell, and we're having a wonderful fall season. People come from miles around to see our leaves in New England. And today, actually, it's warmer here, obviously, so it reminds me a little bit more of summer. I'm such a huge fan of summer, and we have had some real intense summers as a research organization looking at what happens in the summer when school gets out for the summer. I love summer growing up, and I spent many summers as a young person throwing a ball against my family's brick home, and I always thought I was going to play on my dad's baseball team. I thought I was going to pitch on my dad's baseball team. My brother got to pitch. I did not get to pitch. My dad found me a softball team somewhere along the way. But I had my first experience. So I played softball all my life. I had my first experience actually now coaching baseball. So I've coached softball for many, many years, but now I finally got to coach baseball. And so I finally got to pitch. Because when you coach first grade boys, or kindergarten boys, this summer, you have to pitch. Because otherwise that ball's never going to cross the plate. And I was my 30-year-old or so cousin was joining me for practice, and so I was pitching to him, and he got up to the plate, and I was ready to pitch, and all of a sudden all my little people in the back of me said, "Justin's up, move back!" And Justin dropped his bat and came up to the pitcher's mound to see me and said, "I've been waiting all my life for someone to say that." And it made me think about how easy it is to grow up thinking you're an easy out. And I think that in some of the stories we heard this morning, that sort of came through too, how you can grow up and think that you're that easy out. Recent research on summer suggests that summer experiences, the ones we have and the ones we don't have, are a huge part of that cumulative gap between children and youth as they move through school, that achievement gap that we speak about, and that summer contributes a large part of that. What is the achievement gap? I mean, we talk a lot about it, and some people think of it as a book gap, as a teacher gap, as a resource gap. I mean, we can go on and on with all of the things that the achievement gap has been called, and all of the different ways that there's a have and a have-not sort of population, and that all of these things speak to the disparity in academic performance between groups of students. And this achievement gap that we talk about seems to start as early as kindergarten and just progressively can get bigger. And so by the time youth get to 9th grade, that gap is enormous, and the opportunity to sort of make up that time is really not possible. It's an array of factors that contribute. It's not just one thing. We've done some research, and we're thankful to colleagues have done a lot of research around what happens in the summer, and we know a lot about summer learning loss now. And so now we're in a position of trying to figure out what we can do about it. There's some facts and figures that have been given to us by research organizations such as RAND through work supported by the Wallace Foundation. We know a lot more about what happens in the summer. And I mean, the data is pretty startling, that students score lower in many standardized assessments, and this is just generally true. I mean, there's general summer learning loss. This has always been the case. So you have students who are all set with some kind of assessment when they are getting ready to leave school in May, and then they come back in September, and you give them that same assessment, and they don't do as well. There's something that happens over the course of the summer where students forget some of the things that they've learned, et cetera. They lose touch with it, and so they come back in a different place when they come back in September. But it's a disproportionate impact on students, socioeconomic level, et cetera. We see that groups of students do differently, and some students lose more than others. Research by RAND has suggested that in average, students lose about 2 months of work over the course of the summer in math, and 2 months plus in ELA. And that difference is greater for students who are in low-income categories and populations. 66% of teachers report that they spend 2 to 3 months just trying to reteach what they had taught during the last school year. And in some cases, some teachers report even longer amount of time spent reteaching. As a result of all this, it all boils down to the fact that low-income children and children in disenfranchised populations are less likely to graduate from high school. We can look at all the ways that youth have different experiences in the summer. And I know for myself, I was probably about 9 years old when I made my first trip to a summer camp. And all of the out-of-school time experiences, all of the various things that I got involved in summer camp were all important learning experiences to me as I got older. And in fact, I started summer camp at 9, and I ended up to be that, that camp director 19 years, maybe actually even younger than that. 15 years later, I ended up to be that camp director. So these kind of investments that some children are able to take part in are important investments that make a difference in the way that they then experience school and experience learning. And we know we have a set of children who, like on the right side of this picture, have opportunities to be involved with technology, to go to libraries, to visit museums over the summer. And then we have other students, young people who are not having those same sort of experiences. And these things we know make a difference. Having this exposure, having this opportunity to practice learning, to grow in relationships. We talked about the importance of friendships yesterday, and I was struck by the fact that Alexi, when he was talking about his first opportunity to go to Youth-Nex, it was because a friend told him to go. And so how important was that? Maybe it was a chance interaction with a friend or a very intentional interaction with a friend, but how important was that friendship and the exposure to peers, et cetera? These are all parts of summer experiences that some youth have and some youth don't. So what makes summer? Why when we're thinking about the achievement gap and we're thinking about how to look at out-of-school time and make investments in out-of-school time, how is it that summer becomes a viable approach for this work? There's a lot of characteristics about summer that make it a good choice to consider as a way to help students close that gap and to provide them with the asset building that we know they need. Characteristics about summer, such as the fact that in many summer programs, we know that there's already a focus on positive youth development. So there's already a philosophy in place that would create the environment that we know works in out-of-school time. It can be a less expensive option than adding on to a school year or other types of interventions or initiatives. I included some data at the bottom of this slide about what the percent of students that are involved in out-of-school time programs during the summer, the percent of support from parents. But in fact, we heard from Nancy yesterday about the results from the After School Alliance, and in fact, I ran over to our support team here and put in a new slide because these are the new results from the After School Alliance on summer. And if you go from the slide before, you can see that these numbers have increased. So now it's 85% of parents. It used to be 83% of parents who support public funding for summer programs. And a third of families, it used to be 25%, and now it's a third of families who report that at least one child is already involved in a summer program. So why not take what's already in existence, summer programs, and the fact that children are already attending, and think about how we can use those experiences to do asset building, to increase academic progress, to catch students up, to start to close that achievement gap. And in talking with families, After School Alliance reports that at least 50%, in fact more than 50% of families report a desire for their child to participate in something during the summer. So the desire is there, the infrastructure is there in many ways, so summer is a great choice for thinking about providing positive opportunities for youth and helping them close those gaps. Because of the work that has already been going on, and at NIOST we've been involved in really intensely looking at summer learning experiences for about 4 summers now. We already, I think, have brought together a lot of information about what sort of ways, what should summer programs look like. When I was in growing up and going to school, if you were going to summer school, then it usually meant that you were for sure going back to the same building you had just left and had had difficulty in. You were going back to the same building, and you may be going back to the same classroom, and you may be going back to the same teacher. And that was sort of the structure around summer school for us. And what research, what practical common sense has sort of brought us to in terms of summer learning is that there's other characteristics that are going to make positive experiences for young people in summer learning. And this list is not unfamiliar to you. It's not unfamiliar to the list of what creates positive and high quality, in general, out-of-school time programs. It's very similar for summer. And over the years that we've now been collecting lots of intense data around summer learning, it's made this list even more of a priority. This is what summer programs need to look like. This is what the characteristics are. Our work has been focused largely in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island, and specifically in Providence and Boston, and we have begun to really understand better what a summer learning experience can look like with the emphasis on learning. So what do we know? What have we learned about summer, and what sort of data have we been able to bring together? And I don't think there's anything startling to share in terms of we've found that silver mark and can say definitively this is what this is what's going to happen if you create a high-quality summer learning program. This is where young people are going to get. But I think that as a researcher, I am often looking for patterns. I'm not always able to say this is not a petri dish, and I can't say this is the causality behind something. But I find a lot of hope in patterns, and I think that's a place that we're in right now. There's going to be more research coming out soon, I would say, from RAND and from the Wallace Foundation, based on a randomized control trial that's been taking place in summer learning programs in Boston and 5 or 6 other cities over a 2-year period. And I think we're going to have some more, perhaps, definitive information from that. But I think what I can share with you are some important patterns that we're seeing based on our research and evaluation of summer learning. So one is that there's some commonality. When we look at some of those markers that related back to the achievement gap, when we look at standardized assessments and we look at pre and post type of assessments, and the summer can serve as a great sort of intervention design when you think about that students are often taking assessments at the end of the school year. And I talked about that before. They take assessments at the end of the school year. They come back in September. They take the same assessment. It's not as good. So there's a place there very conveniently to throw the summer in as an intervention and to say they took the assessment in May. Here's the summer intervention, the summer learning program. How do they look in September? How do the young people who are in this summer learning program, this high quality summer experience that brought them to museums, that had great relationship building, that put them in touch with mentors and employers and try to take all of those elements from that list that we looked at. How do they do compared to other students who didn't have that experience? And so that's where we've been going with looking at the data around summer as an intervention. And so we start to see patterns. We see patterns about how young people feel about the experience. And so one of the things that we're seeing is that students report feeling more challenged in high quality programs, that they get higher support from program adults, that programs that are, or sites that are showing the better results from that pre-assessment to that post-assessment are sites that are stronger in organization and the management of the learning experiences. There's heavy partnering, organizations that are partnering to expose young people to different kind of learning experiences. There's pre-program resources like professional development and formal partnerships, targeted training and coaching on the kind of curriculum that you might be using in summer learning. There's connection to the school. And in fact, there are teachers who are coming from those same school buildings. So instead of my experience where I met my same teacher at my school building, my teacher is meeting me at the museum in the neighborhood. My teacher is meeting me in Boston on the island. There's an Outward Bound program in an island that hosts a summer learning program. And that's where my teacher from my elementary school is now taking the ferry to that island with me. And that's where we're having our summer learning experience. And when we have to collect data on things that creep around in the water, we're going down to the edge of the island and collecting that data, and then we're bringing that back to our classroom, which is an outside space, et cetera. So all of these are the richness of the experiences that are going on in high quality programs. And so these are characteristics that data has been showing are associated with changing that equation from pre-assessments to post-assessments, from trying to reduce what we call summer learning loss. There's a benefit for teachers too. This is largely about what happens for youth, but maybe we didn't think this was true, or maybe this was unexpected going in, but we've heard incredible things from teachers who are part of summer learning experiences, who now come to class in their shorts and their t-shirts and their sneakers and are getting down into the earth and wherever they're doing their work and having a different kind of classroom experiences. And so teachers have talked about how informative, how life-changing experiences working in the summer have been with youth. Here's a quotation from a teacher who talked about being able to be quiet in the classroom and learning the importance of that through the summer learning experience, through learning outside of the classroom and then coming back to the classroom and being a different teacher in the classroom. Here's what I think are the key findings and the key patterns that we see. That summer learning persists. It persists for many children, and we probably are not going to be able to necessarily in any short time say we have stopped summer learning. But I think what we're starting to see is that it can be different in different places, and some programs and some program sites are starting to show that can be reduced, and in some cases neutral, that we don't see summer learning loss when we look at the kind of assessments that we have. There's promising patterns in those pre-post assessments. There's evidence that the effect of the participation in the program is stronger than the effects of other things we could be looking at, of gender, of race, of other sorts of characteristics of the people involved in the program, that the attendance in the not attendance itself, but the participation in the program is the strongest element. That best practice, most importantly, that best practices can be identified. We can start to say, these are the patterns we see in higher quality programs. How can we take that and how can we share that to the larger, broader, the breadth of programs that are out there and be able to replicate that? As I said, I'm a lover of summer. I'm the person who always stops when there's a homemade lemonade stand on the street. And I might have told some of you the story before, but just to say how complicated this is, how layered this is, how complex this is. It's not so straightforward. I stopped at a lemonade stand and ordered 2 lemonades. The price has gone up since I used to sell it. I think I paid $1 for 2 cups of lemonade, and I noticed there were some berries floating in the cups. And so I asked the young entrepreneur if I could have 2 cups without the berries, and she said, "Oh, that's simple." So she just reached in and took the berries out of the cups and handed me back the cups. And so it's not so straightforward. Summer learning is not so straightforward. It's very complex and layered and complicated, and I think we're doing great work on it, and hopefully we'll continue to learn more as we go. Thank you.